This is a story about one hero, a warrior, fierce and bloodthirsty, whose only dream was to conquer Murim, the world of martial arts. And anyone who stood in his way inevitably perished. He did everything for his goal. To fulfill his dream, he became the patriarch of the Heavenly Steeds clan. He had countless kills to his name. He feared no one, neither God nor devil. After all, he didn't even consider what he was doing as something bad. He merely wielded the power he believed he had earned through hard work. He was close to achieving his goal, but then he encountered Shin Ryun for the first time, who was capable of challenging the bloodthirsty hero, the leader of the Heavenly Steeds clan. You see, the embodiment of evil itself. And Shin Ryun swore to erase all evil from the face of the earth. With tremendous force, Shin Ryun launched an attack. The battle between the two heroes was fierce. Each was confident in their own abilities, and neither was willing to yield. At some point, the leader of the Heavenly Steeds clan let his guard down and fell into a trap. Shin Ryun vowed to send him to hell along with himself. Only a truly valiant person could choose such a selfless and noble way. He killed himself along with his opponent, but the bloodthirsty invader did not stop there. From that point on, he reincarnated, embodying pure evil, and sought to seize Murim. Growing more experienced and dangerous, he returned to wars, conquering more and more territory. At one point, he came close to becoming a god. Wherever he went, wars inevitably ignited. But Shin Ryun appeared once again, the master of the sword and the divider of the ball. Once again, he stood in his way. A new battle between them was inevitable, but this time the conqueror had become even stronger. A devastating clash ensued, leaving destruction in their wake. The malevolent demigod managed to strike a blow against the fighter of evil, but he ultimately lost as he received a wound from a poisoned sword. And every time the wicked conqueror reincarnated, Shin Ryun found him and emerged victorious. And the Blood Clan leader, also known as the Bloody God, remained at the helm of Murim. This was his fifth incarnation. To avoid past mistakes, he decided to expand his influence by seizing borderlands. And once again, war broke out, claiming countless lives. This time, the Blood Warrior trained himself to such an extent that he believed he couldn't be defeated. And once again, they met on the battlefield, and the battle commenced. They exchanged blows relentlessly. The leader was ready to overthrow his enemy, but the latter refused to surrender until all evil was eradicated. Swinging his weapon, he delivered a devastating, piercing strike to his enemy. He believed victory was surely his, but he didn't anticipate the following move. Shin Ryun had one last card up his sleeve, the air filled with the smell of burning. The fighter of evil prepared to unleash his most powerful super strike, the strike of 1,000 lightning, which would incinerate everything within hundreds of feet, including his enemy. He was willing to do whatever it took to defeat evil. The leader of the Heavenly Steeds clan, with despair in his heart, understood the inevitable outcome. A tremendous explosion of unimaginable force resounded, destroying everything in its path. Once again, evil was defeated, but it reincarnated 6 more times to seize Murim. A little child was born, and even the parents were unaware of the evil that resided within him. The mother was going about her business with her children when an announcement came from the emergency broadcast that a spatial portal had been detected, and from there emerged an 8th-level demon. The voice urged people to remain calm and head towards the nearest shelters. Panic spread through the streets just as the explosion rang out. Buildings crumbled and flew towards unsuspecting pedestrians. A colossal monster appeared from behind the building, instilling fear and terror in people. The wounded mother lay on the ground with her children. Their end was inevitable. But then he appeared, one of those they called the Special Ones, unique. Was he capable of killing the demon? To the disappointment of the people, he was not here to fight demons, although everyone thought that those like him were trained specifically for battling monsters. Instead, he opened a huge sack that started sucking in money. 1,000 bills flew straight into the bag from the destroyed bank. The crowd was shocked to see the demon fighter robbing a bank right before their eyes. Do you think Unique fights evil out of the goodness of his heart? the guy said. This character clearly didn't resemble a righteous fighter against evil. He promised to eliminate all witnesses after dealing with the demon. Despite this mayhem, he planned to emerge as a hero from the situation and make a fortune. Too bad you'll die before that. A little boy looked at the representative of Unique with disappointment. But the audacious robber didn't take the boy's words seriously, thinking that an 8th level demon couldn't defeat him. He said that this demon wasn't of the 8th level, and indeed, this demon didn't resemble an 8th level demon but at least a 6th level. A voice from the cabin confirmed that a 6th level demon had come out of the portal and urged everyone to leave the area immediately. With tremendous force, the demon attacked the marauder, but the boy stood still in front of the demon as if he wasn't afraid at all. He stood up to protect his family. The demon swung to kill the boy, but the boy was extraordinary. This wasn't his first life. In past lives, he dealt with dragons like this one effortlessly. The boy delivered such a powerful blow to the dragon that it shattered into pieces. You surely recognize this boy. He is the 6th reincarnation of the ruthless conqueror leader. Despite all his efforts, he was still at the 2nd level. For context, the highest level was 1. In the not-too-distant past, humanity underwent an evolution. For unknown reasons, people were gifted with powers comparable to superhuman abilities. These powers were previously unknown to mankind, and all the countries of the world embarked on exploring them to learn as much as possible. One of the countries that first developed these superpowers was the United States. They kept their research a secret, prompting other countries to start a race for information. Everyone sought to obtain more data about these superhuman abilities. Several years after the emergence of these powers, fissures began to appear in the fabric of space, through which demons could invade the Earth and its inhabitants. Conventional weapons were powerless against these monsters, and only a few who had developed their superpowers could confront the demons. They were called the Special Ones. When a demon attacked, the leader of the Unique squad arrived at the scene and was surprised to find that a 6th level demon had been defeated. After all, defeating such a demon required more than ordinary strength. On the surveillance cameras, he saw that a regular boy had defeated the demon. But we know he was far from ordinary. The same was true for Jong-woo, who was just as powerful. The leader understood that if he had been reincarnated, then Shin Ryun, Jong-woo, had been too. He recognized his power and realized that he needed to be prepared. He had died several times at the hands of Jong-woo, but this time he planned to act differently. "You've been playing this silly game since morning," his mother shouted. "What will become of you when you grow up if you just get up and bury yourself in your toys?" The poor woman had no idea that she was scolding a bloodthirsty conqueror leader. To avoid arousing suspicion, the boy complied with his mother. It was amusing to see the bloodthirsty warrior pretending to be an ordinary boy. He lived an ordinary human life, went to kindergarten, played, and had breakfast. In kindergarten, the kids lively discussed how to challenge and defeat Jong-woo. That's what they called the leader in this life. And there was one daring kid who stepped forward, but the other kids weren't entirely convinced of his strength. "Do you guys not know who I am? I'm the heir of the Golden River clan, the strongest clan from the Great Eight." To the kids, this information sounded like nonsense. But to prove his words, the boy decided to demonstrate a secret technique of his clan. Assuming a stance, he swung his steel fist of fury and struck the tree, sending it flying tens of meters away. To say that the kids were shocked would be an understatement. This boy, whose name was Kon Chun, seriously dreamt of avenging his tormentor. Jong-woo, the reincarnation of the leader, calmly accepted the challenge. The blow that toppled the tree didn't intimidate him in the slightest. Our antagonist, having defeated hundreds of enemies, was genuinely planning to start a brawl in the kindergarten. Next, the action takes us to the territory of the Golden River clan on Kon Chun's birthday. Many children gathered, and a variety of treats and entertainment were arranged for them. And of course, there were girls as well. One of the guests was Yu Hara, a local advertising star. The birthday boy immediately rushed to her, but Jong-woo wasn't particularly interested, even though the girl paid attention to him. Their sweet banter infuriated the birthday boy. It seemed that he liked this cute girl, but she didn't pay attention to him. He couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "Get away from Hara!" In the neighboring room, the birthday boy's father, the leader of the Golden River clan, sat talking with his deputy, inquiring about whom his son wanted to beat up. His methods of upbringing allowed him to do such things. The deputy asked his boss if he still had the portal core. It was a transmitter that maintained the portal from which demons appeared. It was a priceless artifact that could only be obtained by killing demons, and it was worth a fortune. But this was no ordinary core. It carried a curse. Anyone who touched it was wiped off the face of the earth along with their family. But the leader of the Golden River clan was not concerned about it in the slightest. It seemed that he didn't take this artifact too seriously. A loud crash was heard. A massive hole was formed in the banquet hall, apparently pierced by Jong-woo's body. The birthday boy reveled in his victory, and the crowd admired his strength with enthusiasm. In this way, he tried to capture Yuhara's attention. Smugly, he told her not to be afraid of Jong-woo anymore. But she was surprised. Where did he get such confidence? She wasn't afraid of him. Moreover, she noticed that Jong-woo hadn't been defeated yet. But Kon-chun was convinced that he had knocked out his opponent. However, the girl believed that Jong-woo would rise again because Hara possessed the power of the divine eye. Thanks to this, she could determine the condition of her opponent. The birthday boy was incredibly astonished when he discovered that his opponent was standing behind him. He couldn't believe his eyes that after such a blow, he had easily recovered. Jong-woo said that he merely allowed himself to be hit, and the birthday boy should consider it a birthday gift. The birthday boy should have prepared himself because it was now Jong-woo's turn. It was unwise to mess with him. They would see the difference in their powers. Kon-chun had to learn this lesson once and for all before challenging anyone. The entire house shook from the ongoing fight. I tried to check what was happening downstairs, but I had an important topic to discuss after all. The deputy was worried about the portal core and what his boss intended to do with it. It clearly annoyed the leader, or insisted on it. "You simply know nothing about this core, don't you?" the deputy said. The reputation of the Golden River clan suffered because of this core. They were considered empty-headed barbarians who knew nothing about the global situation. But the irritated leader was not concerned about it at all. This core previously belonged to the former leader of the Union Association, Eunuch. 2 years ago, after his entire family was killed, I personally entered the portal and retrieved this core. Since then, the core was only entrusted to trusted individuals, but they all soon perished along with their families. That's why it was called the Cursed Core. He died without being able to take any action. One couldn't play around with a decision regarding the core. And then the leader dumbfounded his deputy with his stupidity by saying that he had lost the core. The fight continued in the banquet hall. Jong-woo's strike was blocked. To his immense surprise, the birthday boy managed to fend off his powerful blow. Kon-chun was radiating some strange aura. Apparently, it prevented him from being harmed. Jong-woo didn't know what kind of aura it was. Everyone was genuinely terrified. It was dangerous to stay there. At that moment, the leader of the Union Association arrived at the gates of the Golden River clan's territory. He was searching for the boy who had defeated a level 6 demon. He managed to track his trail from the clues at the daycare, and he speculated that it was Kon-chun. He thought that nowhere else but in the Golden River clan could such a monster have been raised. The information had to be verified. The children scattered in terror. Kon-chun's aura was growing. Yuhara tried to calm down the enraged boy, but he no longer resembled a boy. He looked like a monster. With her gift, the girl sensed immense danger. Jong-woo knew her power and saw her as a potential rival. He was ready to kill anyone in his way. But the girl didn't run away. Although she was scared, she took the blow upon herself. In a fit of rage, Kon-chun struck her, causing her to fly into the wall. She was losing consciousness and praying for help. Jong-woo forcefully attacked the enraged boy monster. At that moment, the girl lost consciousness. As a result of Jong-woo's strike, Kon-chun was sent flying. In his childhood, Kon-chun felt an unusual pressure from his father. His father often criticized him for doing everything wrong and demanded a lot from him, comparing him to his older brother. He would point out that his older brother had superpowers at Kon-chun's age, and that Kon-chun wouldn't catch up at his current pace. Kon-chun brought a martial arts trophy among the kindergartners to impress his father, but even that failed to surprise him. The child was deeply saddened by this. However, his father, upon seeing his disappointment, tried to encourage him a little. Kon-chun wanted to do everything to make his father proud, but he worried that Jong-woo might interfere with his goal. After another blow, Kon-chun was thrown into the wall, and Jong-woo mocked him, further fueling the boy's rage. Getting back on his feet, Kon-chun launched a counterattack, striking Jong-woo and sending him crashing into the wall. They looked like children, but the fight was far from childish. In his father's office, an important conversation continued. The deputy still couldn't believe how such a special artifact could be lost. He urged to find it as soon as possible. But what kind of curse was it that even the chairman of the Union Association, eunuch, couldn't handle? The leader began to realize the importance of the core. The cursed core could subdue the spirit of its user. It seemed that the appearance of extraordinary power somehow influenced the leader's horns, but the core's possessor becomes possessed by the devil itself. Kon-chun continued to beat Jong-woo, finding solace in his own strength. He had longed to obtain power to prove to everyone that he was the strongest among the Grape Cup winners. In fact, this only infuriated Kon-chun further, and he rushed into another attack. But this time, Jong-woo dodged, intercepted him in midair, and slammed him into the ground. Jong-woo understood that his opponent was now possessed by some force, a parasite. The initiative had now shifted to Jong-woo's side. Blow after blow, he struck his opponent. The core realized that it couldn't defeat Jong-woo in this child's body and intended to find a stronger host. At that moment, the chairman of the Union Association, eunuch, entered the room and asked, "Which one of you is Kon-chun?" Before he could finish his sentence, the parasite in Kon-chun's body latched onto him. The core took control of Chairman Eunuch's body, and now the core was in a much stronger vessel. As soon as the core in its new body was about to launch an attack, the leader of the Golden River clan entered the room. Seeing his son on his knees, beaten and bleeding, he was in shock. He turned to Eunuch, asking if it was him who did this, if he was the one who brought his son to such a state. But Eunuch, possessed by the core, cursed the clan leader, but not to whom he said it. His head boiled with anger, his eyes filled with blood, and a mad smile appeared on his face. Without hesitation, the clan leader rushed into an attack with the strike of heavenly retribution, knocking down the opponent who crashed into the wall with screams. The core threatened immediate retribution, but before it could get up, the heavenly retribution struck again, knocking the core out of Eunuch's body. "Quick! Grab it!" shouted the deputy, and the leader reached for the core, but right in front of his nose, Junwoo grabbed the stone. "Boy! It's dangerous! Give it to us!" cried the deputy. Naive man, now Junwoo will never give up this artifact. Junwoo wanted to destroy the stone, but it begged for mercy and promised to grant unheard-of power. But Junwoo didn't change his intentions. He clenched the stone in his hands so tightly that it shattered into small pieces, leaving only a puff of dust. After the incident, the parents came to take their children home. The leader of Eunuch was carried away on a stretcher. That's how the incident with the cursed core was resolved. The deputy treated the wounds of the clan leader's son. The boy didn't remember anything. The last thing he remembered was the guests arriving. Yesterday, he was under the influence of the core. Yes, he really frightened the guests. He was deeply upset because now no one would want to play with him. He also remembered losing to Junwoo in a fight. At that time, Kanchun's father was sparring with his eldest son. Junwoo came to the training place. A conversation began between the leader of the Golden River and Junwoo. The leader knew that it was Junwoo who beat his younger son. The leader realized that he was facing a formidable young boy, an extremely strong fighter. Therefore, he proposed to have a sparring match with his other son, the elder Kan Hyun, whom Junwoo defeated 2-0. The mediator defeated both the younger and the elder son. Now the father decided to compete with him. Junwoo expected such an offer and was ready for it. The eldest son tried to dissuade him, but his father didn't listen and waited for Junwoo's answer to his proposal. The eldest son apparently did not realize the full strength of the boy and tried to dissuade him, fearing for his life. But Junwoo was not afraid at all, despite the significant age difference. The leader of the Golden River clearly showed respect for the boy, as he felt his strength and unwavering spirit. Junwoo realized his strength and knew that defeating the clan leader would be easy for him. A heated argument continued between them, awakening the thrill in each of them. And then the leader decided to strike, but Junwoo was prepared and easily evaded it. However, more strikes followed, knocking him back. The boy leaned against a wooden pillar, and at that moment, the leader unleashed the divine strike of the dragon, which broke the pillar with the boy's body. Kan Chun and the deputy rushed to the place of the duel, wanting to stop the brawl. It was surprising for the deputy that an adult man decided to fight a 7-year-old child. But to their great astonishment, Junwoo knocked out the clan leader, smashing through a huge wall with him. 10 years had passed. Junwoo returned to the Golden River clan's residence. To his surprise, the huge hole in the wall that the leader of the Golden River had made when Junwoo was 7 years old was still there. When asked why it hadn't been repaired, Kan Chun explained that their father forbade it, as the hole served as a reminder of the leader's first defeat, inflicted by the seemingly invincible Junwoo. Indeed, there was nothing to boast about. An adult man, an unbeatable fighter, had been defeated by a 7-year-old boy, but for him, it served as an important lesson. He acknowledged Junwoo's superior strength, but still maintained his enthusiasm and interest in competing with him. In an attempt to catch Junwoo off guard, the clan leader unexpectedly unleashed a thunderous strike. He simply wanted to show off his own attack. "This is all thanks to your divine chi, Junwoo," said the leader. Divine chi was once one of Junwoo's main assets in his past lives. He would never have thought of passing it on to someone else. But now, he seemed to have accepted the fact that he won't conquer Murim. He decided to simply have fun and enjoy life until the end of his days. Lightning bolts reached Kan Chun. It seemed that his father had gone a bit too far. Though respected and esteemed, he sometimes displayed childish behavior and wanted to show off. Everyone around him insisted that he shouldn't squander divine chi, as it hadn't come to him easily. Junwoo made a good profit from it. He sold it for 10 billion won, jokingly remarking that he had forgotten about such an event. The high price had to be paid because if Junwoo hadn't received 10 billion, he would have sold it to their competitors. In reality, they only paid 1 billion, but in addition, they appointed him as the deputy leader of the Golden River clan, with an annual salary of 300 million won. Everyone was satisfied thanks to the devoted divine power. The Golden River clan became much stronger, and the youngest daughter of the clan leader joined them. She was clearly delighted to see Junwoo and rushed into his arms. The girl was still very young, but her father was already making plans for Junwoo to become his son-in-law. Wasn't it too early to make such plans? Their connections were quite close, and Junwoo's mother and the clan leader's wife were best friends. He had a good relationship with the clan, and their interactions were friendly and playful. Junwoo threatened the leader to give him a lesson, as in the good old days. Fooling around, the leader tried to play it cool, calling Junwoo his son-in-law, but he persistently resisted. However, there was still a gap in communication between the leader and Junwoo, and no matter how hard the leader tried, it didn't decrease, but rather increased. Junwoo and Kan Chun walked along the road. Kan Chun asked if Junwoo was really going to marry his little sister, Jongwon. Junwoo neither confirmed nor denied it, as anything was possible in this life. Junwoo enrolled in the Faculty of Magic, despite his high level of combat training. He still criticized himself. Junwoo was a swordsman, and it surprised Kan Chun. Why would he pursue magic? But Junwoo wanted to become stronger in all aspects. Despite rejecting the idea of conquering Murim, he still feared encountering his old enemy. The special school Uni was a state guild, an institution sponsored by clans that focused on training individuals with supernatural abilities. Its goal was to prepare students for full membership in the Uni Guild. In addition to regular academic subjects, students in the State Guild were trained in survival and combat skills. To gain admission to the Uni Academy, one had to pass an entrance exam and compete with 10 other candidates for each spot. Numerous people arrived for the entrance exam, including Min Jin Yuna from the Crimson Eyes clan and Kan Minho from the Innovation clan. A crowd of fangirls was already chasing after them, almost knocking down Kan Shun and John Woo. A local celebrity arrogantly pushed Kan Shun and called him a gorilla, and her insult was echoed by the fangirls. Kan Shun was outraged by such treatment, as he was the heir of the Golden River clan and had no intention of tolerating such behavior. However, before he could do anything, someone beat him to it and crashed into the local celebrity, causing her to fall to the ground. It was a junior tiger from the Black Tigers clan, accompanied by his entourage. Kan Shun and the tigers had unresolved issues, and Kan Shun was ready to settle them right then and there, but Junwoo stopped him. The crowd of fangirls demanded an apology from the tigers for offending their star, whom they had just helped off the asphalt. The fangirls were seriously outraged and insisted on receiving apologies. In response, the tiger extended his hand, in which an apple appeared, which he threw at the fangirls. It exploded in their hands, releasing choking gas into their faces, and the tigers laughed at them. "I hope you learn your lesson, dumb chicks," the tigers laughed. The fangirls couldn't breathe and begged for help, but the tiger callously mocked them. Kan Shun couldn't bear it and launched an attack, but the tiger easily stopped his strike. It seemed that a battle between the Golden River clan and the Black Tigers clan was imminent, and a crowd gathered to witness the spectacle. The situation between the clans was tense as they vied for influence. Junwoo knew that Kan Shun could handle the offender easily and decided not to intervene for now. With Conchuna, they had old scores to settle, and Conchuna was ready to settle them right now. But Junwoo stopped him. The crowd of fangirls demanded an apology from the tigers for offending their star, whom they had just helped off the asphalt. The fangirls were serious and insisted on an apology. In response, the tiger extended his hand, in which an apple appeared. He threw it at the fangirls, and it exploded in their hands, spraying choking gas in their faces, while the tigers mocked them. "I hope you learn your lesson, stupid chicks," the tigers laughed. The fangirls couldn't breathe and asked for help, but the tiger callously taunted them. Unable to bear it, Conchuna launched an attack, striking the tiger with a powerful punch, but the tiger easily stopped his blow as if he were prepared. The tiger continued to provoke Conchuna, targeting his father, which greatly infuriated Conchuna. It seemed that a battle between the Golden River clan and the Black Tigers was brewing, and a crowd gathered to witness the spectacle. The situation between the clans was already tense as they competed for influence. Junwoo knew that Conchuna could easily handle the offender and decided not to intervene for now. Conchuna confronted the tiger for the chaos the tigers had caused by poisoning defenseless schoolgirls, but the tiger continued to smirk maliciously. However, the girls were released, and they felt relieved. The heir of the tigers stated that he had merely taught a lesson to an upstart who was blocking his path and addressed the crowd. Everyone present truly considered Kanmina as an arrogant troublemaker. Nevertheless, John Woo interjected into the conversation, calling the tiger a brazen hyena. The situation grew increasingly heated. The tiger didn't hesitate for long and launched an attack, directing a snake strike towards Conchuna. However, Conchuna was far from ordinary. He easily intercepted the tiger's hand and grabbed him by the throat, leaving the tiger gasping for air, unable to do anything. His entourage watched with open mouths as the crowd began to support the Golden River. Conchuna, with a malicious grin, choked the tiger cub, who could only look at him with resentment. The tiger used a venomous technique, but it had no effect on Conchuna. In response to the commotion, the commander arrived and stopped the fight. The guys separated, exchanging menacing glares, but their scores were not settled. It was not their last encounter. The commander dispersed the crowd and put an end to the chaos. John Woo and Conchuna drank soda, and Junwoo pointed out to his friend that he had messed up. Junwoo believed that the fight needed to be finished because when you step on a snake, you must be prepared to be bitten. After all, the tigers had a history of getting into fights. Junwoo grabbed Konchuna by the wrist and lifted his sleeve, revealing marks from fingers. It seemed the tiger had employed absorption. Junwoo recognized someone in those marks. Through this technique, he learned about the master of the Blood Clan. He had encountered him in his 5th life and remembered how he fought against his enemies, killing them one by one, calmly calculating his count. He had planned to kill 20 people, but his plans were disrupted by the one who bound the remaining 7 and placed them near a tree. He intended to kill them, but his captives pleaded for mercy. However, the leader of the Blood Clan was relentless, and he drained the life force from one of the captives and then from the rest in one fell swoop. The leader of the Blood Clan often hindered him, but in the end, Junwoo destroyed him, tearing him apart. It took a great deal of effort, especially considering the impending battle with Shin Ryun. Perhaps that's why he lost back then. But as that bastard was dying, he said something. "Don't be so proud that you defeated me," he said. "I have consumed over 10,000 people. If only the body of bloody souls had come to an end, it would be you who died now." Junwoo recalled what the body of bloody souls was. It was a devilish technique that could only be completed by absorbing the internal energy of over 10,000 people. Even though he had absorbed fewer than 10,000 people, Sun Moon could still rival Junwoo in strength, although at that time he was likely the strongest person. The leader of the Blood Clan promised to complete the body of bloody souls and tear Junwoo into pieces in the next life. But first, they needed to find out if the tiger really used absorption. After contemplating for a long time, Junwoo detached himself from Konchun. Konchun was very curious about why his friend abruptly left after seeing his wrist. That's when the final test for magic specialization began. Everyone who was supposed to take it had to stand in line, so Konchun didn't get an answer to his question. The only thing Junwoo said was that it was time for them to go. Junwoo himself wasn't sure about his version yet, and there was no need to say anything. The lecture was in progress, and the professor was writing formulas on the board. Someone asked why they studied complex mathematical formulas in the field of magic. The teacher asked, "If we want to understand the magic being used, we must know subjects like advanced mathematics and physics." The professor continued, but the lecture was interrupted by a boy who said that interviews were about to take place for those who would be taking the exam. The students stood in line and anxiously waited for their turn. Chung-woo, the familiar character from the Tiger Clan, was called out. It was unexpected to see him there. Could it be that he had also applied for the magic department? The tiger still planned to find Junwoo to discover who he really was. He intended to use Junwoo to get back at Konchun. The tiger arranged a meeting with Junwoo and said that after the test, he would head towards the emergency exit. But Junwoo didn't like the tiger's arrogant tone, and he wasn't going to give in to him. The tigers were surprised that Junwoo wasn't scared of them, but the tiger insisted on the meeting. His voice was quite intimidating. A girl overheard their conversation and intervened in the dispute. She was a gentle-looking girl with glasses and a number 1 badge. The tiger arrogantly asked her who she was, and she introduced herself as Chun-jan. She decided to stand up for Junwoo. It was evident that she was a decent and well-mannered girl. She demanded that the crowd of hooligans apologize to Junwoo. Junwoo didn't expect such audacity from the girl. This angered the tiger, and he began rolling up his sleeves. However, the girl was no pushover either. She repelled the tiger's arrogant spell before he could even finish his sentence. The onlookers were amazed by what they saw. The fragile girl challenged the crowd of tigers, one of whom was already lying unconscious. "Ask him for forgiveness," insisted the girl. "Surprisingly, there are many enthusiasts of apologies today," arrogantly said the tiger heir, who had a surprise in store for the girl. But Junwoo warned him that it would be better if the tiger didn't do that. He was not afraid of him at all. After all, who could a person who had lived 5 lives, fought in 1,000 battles, and defeated over 1,000 enemies fear? This tiger was impudent and audacious, always looking for trouble. Approaching Junwoo, he saw something in his eyes. The crowd gathered, ready for a fight, but for some reason the tiger suddenly grabbed his stomach while Junwoo stood there with a smirk on his face. The girl continued to insist that the arrogant tiger simply apologize. However, the tiger had no time for that. His stomach was in terrible pain, and he wanted to end this situation quickly. First, he decided to attack the girl, but her barrier was impenetrable. A horrible stench filled the air. The tiger's legs weakened, and he trembled. His gang didn't understand what was happening to their leader. He gritted his teeth, covered in cold sweat, and finally he couldn't hold it any longer. He defecated right in front of everyone's eyes. It was a shameful sight. The disgusting odor spread throughout the entire school. Yes, the smell was truly unbearable. It was difficult to stay in that room. Professor Richard and the inspector were also present in the room, discussing the witnessed fight. The inspector was surprised as to why the professor didn't stop it, but the professor was curious to see how it would end. After the fight, there was chaos around, but even in that chaos, the professor managed to scan those who passed the first round using a mana scanner. The inspector noticed that the professor was doing an excellent job. Their attention then turned to the students. They noticed a girl who stood up for Junwoo. It was remarkable that her mother had achieved the 5th circle. She was even more than a genius, surpassing even those in America or England. It was very rare to come across someone of her age who had reached the 5th circle. But the girl was not only talented, but also very modest, unaware of how strong she truly was. She feared that she might not be accepted into the faculty, while in reality, she held one of the leading positions. "You have a considerable amount of mana. I will be watching you in the future," the professor said joyfully. "You passed." The girl couldn't contain her happiness. She was ecstatic. "And you," the professor said, looking at Junwoo. In the professor's profile, it was written that he was a mid-level mage, but Junwoo knew that he was at least at the highest level. The professor continued, discussing how the quantity and purity of mana could be so dreadful. He expressed doubts about whether Junwoo should even be placed at the 3rd level. The professor used telepathy and was surprised to find that Junwoo could also utilize such complex and advanced techniques at such a young age. It seemed the professor was not mistaken. He couldn't understand why Junwoo came to study magic if he possessed such techniques. Check the text, correct all errors in the text, and translate it into English. Using telepathy, he continued, "Do you think it's possible to learn both magic and combat techniques simultaneously?" "I already know the techniques, and I don't need to be taught," responded the professor. "But magic is an unknown field, and it's difficult for me to come across someone like you, Professor." Junwoo also mentioned telepathy. "Perhaps it seems like a good idea to be both a mage and a swordsman, but in the end, you might not succeed in either direction. If you want to study magic simply because you have been blessed with mana, then it is a huge mistake and arrogance," said the professor. "A specialized school is a place for learning combat skills and abilities, as well as eliminating their shortcomings. I don't want to separate combat techniques and magic. The important thing is that I am developing," Junwoo replied. The professor felt that Junwoo didn't take magic seriously and asked what the boy would do if he didn't get accepted. However, Junwoo was confident and didn't consider such an option. He knew that the professor would fairly assess his abilities. Outside, Junwoo was already greeted by Kanchun, who had no doubt that his friend would pass the exam successfully. Kanchun laughed and spoke about the situation that occurred before the exam, how the tiger embarrassed himself in front of everyone. "That's a heart poison," Junwoo said. "He had diarrhea because of that poison." Kanchun was pleasantly surprised since heart poison was a technique used by poisonous emperors in warrior tales. Junwoo whispered to his friend, asking him not to talk too much about it. Chanwoo decided to explain that the tiger possessed the absorption technique, and he wanted to test how he would react to the heart poison, as it has an even stronger effect on people like him. Kanchun was unaware of the absorption technique and was not as experienced. Junwoo told him that it was a technique used by a disgusting person. Someone was walking around the room, searching for a girl who was hiding under the bed. This girl was from the eunuch organization, and she was terribly afraid of being found. Who could have scared this girl? Someone entered the room, approached the bed, and the girl froze. She was afraid to move or even breathe. The man stood there for a while, turned around and left the room. The girl thought that the danger had passed and crawled out from under the bed. She witnessed a horrifying scene around her. People were hanging from the walls. They resembled skeletons from which all human essence seemed to have been drained. As she walked into the corridor, she saw the same gruesome sight. Piles of people lay along the corridor, and their faces were terrifying to look at. They all resembled mummies. Who could have done such a thing? The girl had never seen anything like it before, and thought that only the devil himself could be responsible. A terrifying silhouette crept up from behind and held a knife to her neck. "Why did you come out again?" he asked. The girl's heart sank with fear. "You should have continued hiding under the bed," the monster continued from behind. The girl understood her hopeless situation, and panic engulfed her. The monster did to her what he had done to everyone else in the building. He drained all the life energy from her. The actions now shift back to the school. An announcement was made about the completed qualifying round. "Stand in line for your specialties. The orientation will begin soon." Kanchun and Junwoo stood together, and Kanchun noticed that a girl, Chae Yoon-jung, kept paying attention to them. She was the same girl who had defended Junwoo before. But when she noticed the attention from the boys, she immediately turned away and pretended she wasn't looking. Kanchun became nervous. She had accidentally bumped into two passers-by. Kanchun understood that the girl had feelings for Junwoo, but he was concerned about something else at the moment. He was concerned about the absorption technique that he had felt on himself. Was it really worth worrying about it? And then Pahiko, from the Tiger Clan, appeared nearby. The guys were surprised that after that incident, after he had soiled himself in front of everyone, he was able to show up at this school at all. Junwoo said he needed to check something and headed towards Pahiko. The tiger, seeing Junwoo, grabbed him angrily. He clearly held a grudge against him and wanted to settle the score after that incident. Junwoo calmly grabbed his wrist and effortlessly threw him aside. Pahiko realized he wasn't dealing with just anyone, but with someone who knew many techniques. Of course, Junwoo wouldn't reveal his techniques to just anyone he met. Pahiko, in fury, launched an attack, but his strikes were easily parried. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't land a hit. He was no match for Junwoo. Exhausting his opponent, Junwoo delivered a devastating blow directly to the tiger's face, sending him flying into the wall, splattering blood around. Additionally, he kicked him in the face, driving his foot into the ground. Junwoo grabbed him by the hair and mockingly asked, "Shall we continue?" In desperation, Pahiko began to threaten him with his status. He promised to get revenge on him. But in response, Junwoo once again thrust his face into the asphalt. "Shall we continue?" he asked with a smile. Pahiko realized he couldn't resist Junwoo. He became curious about who he was and where he got such strength. However, Junwoo asked once again, "Shall we continue or not?" Who Junwoo is thinking about? If he hadn't finished the battle in this way, I wouldn't have resorted to such measures. The red-haired guy introduced himself. "I'm Baek Kin-soo, a member of the Student Association, studying in my 4th year," he continued. "According to the rules of the confrontation in the school, it is a free choice. However, it seems to me that you have exceeded the allowed level," the 4th-year student said. At that time, Park Hee-ho lay motionless. But Junwoo replied that it was a necessary measure since Park Hee-ho had used a forbidden technique. He released poison to kill him. "If you want," Junwoo said, releasing most of the poison from his body, but some of it still remained. The senior student knew the rules. If the opponent uses poison, the duel should be fought on an equal level. Moreover, Park Hee-ho is the heir of the Black Tiger Clan. It's not just that the heir of the Black Tiger Clan attacked an ordinary student, but he also used poison. Many people witnessed this fight, and pretending that nothing happened won't work. There will clearly be consequences. Junwoo approached Park Hee-ho, who was lying against the wall, and kicked him in the face once again. The senior student didn't like this at all. Park Hee-ho was already unconscious. Why finish him off? Junwoo was trying to provoke another poisonous move from Park Hee-ho. He thought that the defeated opponent might be pretending. The red-haired guy felt a certain dislike for Junwoo. He didn't like his behavior, and he warned him carefully that if Junwoo didn't stop, he would have to fight him as well. But Junwoo wasn't one to back down. He asked if he could handle the consequences, which clearly stunned the senior student. However, common sense prevailed, and he didn't let emotions take over. He wanted to put an end to this incident. "If you stop, I'll pretend that nothing happened," said the senior student, and Junwoo withdrew his leg. From the tiger's perspective, the red-haired guy asked, "What's the fighter's name?" Junwoo introduced himself and said that he was from the magic department first year. In school, rumors would quickly spread, and news of today's fight, where the heir of the Tiger clan was taken care of by some freshman, would spread quickly. Junwoo walked down the corridor, thinking about how the tiger, even without knowing the absorption technique, still managed to use it and almost defeated him. The events then moved to a hotel where a terrible incident occurred. Many people were killed, and their life force was drained from them. The head of the Black Tiger clan, Pak Yeonjong, came to the crime scene. He wanted to know how it all happened. He was told that the one who did all this had drained everyone, including the security guards, and then escaped. The leader of the Tigers was infuriated by this. He was furious that the killer managed to reach the union association. He shouted for all employees at the main office to join in quickly to find the assailant. This case was extremely important. In the city, a serial killer maniac was operating. Junwoo quickly gained popularity at the eunuch special school. He had fans who showered his desk with gifts. The girls flirted with him. In the same school, his longtime friend Yuhara was also studying. She pushed aside the girls and went to sit right next to Jonggu. She was a celebrity at school, which of course annoyed the other girls because they wanted his attention. Yuhara didn't back down and quickly put an end to the dissatisfied girls' conversations by showing them her fist. The girls, although unhappy, understood that they couldn't compete with Yuhara. She was so audacious since kindergarten, and sometimes even the boys were afraid of her. Junwoo was curious about why a girl with the talent of the divine eye came to study magic. However, magic was an optimizing part of the divine eye. Despite her young age, Yuhara was already involved in show business. Additionally, she came from a well-off family. Yuhara had long harbored feelings for Junwoo because he saved her when she was being attacked by an obsessed gangster in their childhood. But Junwoo didn't rush to reciprocate her advances. Another recent acquaintance of Junwoo joined them, someone who stood up for him against the Tigers. It was likely that she also had feelings for Junwoo. Yuhara became furious upon seeing her rival. She was clearly eaten away by strong emotions. She was definitely jealous. The girls were ready to confront each other one-on-one and exchanged piercing glances. At that moment, Junwoo received a message on his mobile phone. It was from his younger sister, inviting him to the movies. However, Junwoo tactfully declined, saying he would be busy at school but promised to go with her next time. Suyeon was not alone at the cinema, but with her friend, who was also disappointed that Junwoo didn't come. Nevertheless, they went to watch a movie together. Afterward, they got caught up in a conversation, and it was already dark outside. Suyeon ran home because it was late, and she was worried about getting scolded by her mother. She found herself on a deserted, dark street. She felt scared and sensed someone following her. Masked individuals attacked her, but the girl knew how to defend herself by creating a protective barrier that scattered the attackers. The assailants immediately realized they were dealing with an extraordinary girl. The girl threatened to call the police, but the thugs said the police wouldn't come because they had disabled the surveillance cameras in the entire area. They attempted to attack her again, but the girl skillfully dodged their attempts. However, one of the attackers managed to grab her. Junwoo burst into the hospital as soon as he learned that his sister Suyeon was there. Excitedly, he rushed into her room where his little sister greeted him, safe and unharmed. "Why did you come so late?" she asked. Junwoo wanted to quickly make sure she was okay and find out what had happened and why she was in the hospital. Modestly, she began to tell her story. "Those men over there," she pointed to a gang lying in a row, unable to move with casts and bandages. "They tried to kidnap me." "Who beat them up like this?" Junwoo asked. Still modestly, the girl continued her story. As soon as one of the masked men tried to grab her, a shockwave knocked him away. She saw a crowd of people in suits with ties approaching. It was the leader of the Steel Brotherhood, Kang Tae-san, with his company of people. Strangely, the leader of the Brotherhood addressed the girl as Madam, which surprised her. The masked bandits were furious because the Steel Brotherhood had disrupted their plans, but now they should be more concerned about survival. The Black Gold Group had launched an attack to kill them, and they intended to leave no one alive, beating them to near death. The leader of the Steel Brotherhood noticed that the girl had been injured. In reality, it was just a minor scratch, but it enraged him, and he gave the order to kill them all. It was strange that after such a brawl, the masked bandits ended up in the hospital instead of the graveyard. The girl was terrified by the situation and blamed her brother for not coming to her. She was a very kind girl and even felt a little sorry for the bandits who attacked her. Junwoo stood in the hospital parking lot when a familiar crowd approached him. They bowed before Junwoo and informed him that the lady had safely arrived home. It turns out that Junwoo created the Steel Brotherhood. Its members are bandits with unforgivable sins and inhumane loan sharks. These are the people whom no one will mourn if something happens to them in battle. The leader of the Steel Brotherhood was worried that he didn't arrive in time to protect the girl, putting her in danger. However, Junwoo was still tolerant towards them. He bid them farewell, and they went their separate ways. But someone was watching the events from the lonely parking lot. It was the notorious assassin from the Black Tiger Clan's residence, where martial arts training took place. It was a famous place that school children were taken on excursions to. A group of students had just arrived at the location. They knew about the place, and that the Black Tiger Clan was part of the Great Eight, one of the strongest clans in the world. In Korea, the Unified Guild and the Great Eight clans together protected people from monsters emerging from portals. It was difficult to say which clan was weaker or stronger, but if you had to choose, our Black Tigers were the strongest. The voice of the teacher was heard from behind. It was Pak Yong-jong, the leader of the Black Tigers. It was a great honor for the students and the teacher to meet the clan leader. He loved children very much and knew that these children would become the future of their country. The students happily surrounded him, wanting to take photos and even touch him. He was like a superhero to them. At the doorstep stood another familiar figure, the leader of the Unified Association. For him, this clan leader was a despicable character. He knew that behind the mask of politeness and kindness, there was a scoundrel and a villain. Eunuch conducted an investigation. They were trying to gather the necessary information. The chief of Eunuch had his partner by his side who suggested calling for reinforcements. However, the Eunuch leader believed it was unnecessary. They should act carefully and discreetly. The Black Tiger Clan was their enemy, and any careless actions could lead to a war between Eunuch and the Great Eight. Mysterious events had taken place the day before. During a scientific expedition, 300 people who had gathered there disappeared without any apparent reason. But that wasn't all. 3 tourist buses also vanished without a trace. Additionally, all the visitors at a hotel in the city disappeared. The leader believed that all these 3 cases were related to the monsters that emerged from the portal. But the Black Tigers were also involved in these events, although evidence was needed to prove it. The girl from Eunuch was the twin sister of the girl who had been mercilessly killed in the hotel the day before, along with everyone else, a year ago. The Black Tigers found something in their ancient burial grounds, and after that, all these events started occurring. Until we find out what they found there, we cannot act recklessly. We needed to patiently wait until their plans became known. The leader of the Tigers bid farewell to the group of school children and asked if Pak Yol had returned. Pak Yol had returned, but in a bad condition. He had been beaten the day before, as you may recall, and he was licking his wounds and recovering. He looked bad. His father entered the room, and Pak Yol was clearly afraid of him. He fell to his knees, promising not to cause any more trouble for his father, and begged for forgiveness. The father simply replied that if Pak Yol started something, he had to finish it. The father was displeased to see his son's weakness. As he intended to hand over their entire clan to him, Pak Ki-ho was also raised in an environment of cruelty and relentless training. For any weakness or mistake, his father would beat him with a stick. Since childhood, his father had prepared him to inherit the leadership of the clan. But for such a responsible mission, he believed that showing weakness was unacceptable. However, from childhood, a hatred grew in Pak Ki-ho towards his father. He wanted to seek revenge on him. Excavations were taking place near the old burial sites of the Black Tigers. People were carrying boxes out of the catacombs. The leader himself observed the process. It was pouring rain, and one of the boxes slipped from a worker's hands, causing strong displeasure from the leader. He knew what was inside those boxes and how careful one should be with them. It wasn't just a box. It was a coffin containing a body. It was an ancient evil that yearned to break free, but it was being held back by force. It was the one who sucked the life out of people. Pak Ki-ho knew that this character wanted to break free and offered his help in exchange for his own conditions. He wanted to learn the technique of absorption. Determined to get back on his feet quickly and regain his former strength, he went to the training hall. He asked the servants if there were any news from the Phantom Faces squad, to which the servants reported that there was no news due to communication problems. This angered Pak Ki-ho because they had so much communication equipment. He had a plan in mind, but everything didn't go as planned. He took the servant by the hand and absorbed his life energy. For the first time, this technique worked for him, and his wounds healed. He felt a surge of energy. Thanks to this technique, he would be able to withstand Jun-woo. An explosion was heard on the other side of the city. People in suits were trying to establish communication. They informed passers-by that a training session was underway, simulating the opening of a night portal, and they asked everyone to move to safe places. The roads in the vicinity were blocked. Jun-woo gathered the Steel Brotherhood. He was greatly angered by something, and the founder of the clan informed his brotherhood that the Black Tigers would be wiped off the face of the earth. An explosion rang out. Someone attacked the Tigers' residence. The Blue Tigers, one of the three groups within the Black Tigers and ranked second among them, reacted to the attack. They were surprised by the audacity of the assailants, as the Tigers' reputation prevented anyone from even thinking about an attack. Nevertheless, someone dared to do so, and the Blue Tigers fell victim to the attack one by one. The unknown attacker incapacitated them. The leader of the Blue Tigers managed to hide in a corner. He expected to see a whole army, but only saw one guy in front of him. The leader of the Blue Tigers was incredibly outraged by the audacity of the guy and wanted to teach him a lesson. However, he received such a powerful blow that even his block couldn't help him, and he went flying, smashing everything in his path with his body. He couldn't understand the motives behind the attack on the Tigers, considering it a great foolishness. However, his squad was neutralized, lying motionless all around. He couldn't believe his eyes. It seemed impossible to him. The attacker was about to finish off the leader of the Blue Tigers when a bold voice from behind stopped him. The Red Tigers, one of the three groups within the Black Tigers and ranked first among them, arrived at the scene armed to the teeth and wearing devil masks. They were capable of instilling terror in anyone, but not in this guy. A massacre began. The leader of the Unicorn tried to find out what was happening, but ironically, his communication wasn't working. His partner speculated that someone had attacked the Black Tigers, but even the members of the Unicorn found it insane and couldn't even guess who it could be. The members of the Unicorn needed to establish communication and report on the events unfolding at the headquarters. However, the leader's assistant disobeyed the order and rushed towards the wall because she wanted to find her younger sister. The leader shouted for her to come back, but it was already too late. The girl received a blow that came out of nowhere. It was a barrier that hadn't been there before. Meanwhile, the Red Tigers were getting their act together. A guy standing alone in the center of the courtyard effortlessly defeated their squad like kittens. But the Tigers didn't retreat. They ran to attack the lone fighter. And that's when the guy pulled out a shapeless sword. "Everyone run!" shouted the leader of the Tigers. But the guy had already swung his sword and knocked down the fighters charging at him. The shapeless sword was a technique that even the clan leader had struggled to master. Who on earth was this guy? The Tigers couldn't comprehend it. They tried to figure out why he had attacked them and why the guy wanted to kill them all. The guy decided to tell them the reason for the attack. He believed that the tigers wanted to kidnap his little sister, so he decided to pay them a visit. The leader couldn't understand. Was he really willing to kill hundreds of people because of some mistake or an unsuccessful attempt to steal a girl? But for the guy, it was a serious reason. And then, on the battlefield, a young lord of the tigers appeared. What would happen next? If you could subscribe right now, you really help this channel to achieve our goal 1,000 subscribers, and then we will make coolest manhwa for you each day. Thanks for watching and see you in a bit.